All right, it's 6:31, so, oh, I'll give you a second, sorry. I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If we could get a roll call when you're ready for the folks here.
Locke,
Present.
Vanek Theranath,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Furtado, Hanauer,
Here.
Ingram is out, Lakshin.
Here. Thank you. Okay, hopefully everybody had a chance to review, the agenda for the meeting. If we could get a motion to approve that. Locke and Wilson. All in favor? Aye. Okay. And then we have approval of minutes from the June 6th meeting. So moved by Hanauer Friedman, second by Wilson. All in favor? All right. I don't have any notifications for public participation for this meeting. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak? Doesn't look like it. Okay. Any board communications? No, seeing none. Okay, we'll move right along to new business. You notice Dana is not here tonight, so he's on a well-deserved break. So we have an update on ITB 2022-008 County Plaza, renovation project from Bailey Edward Design. Carla Smalley is here, and Boren Russo, Austin Barton. And take it away.
Yeah, I got full screen on there. Maybe that view. Full screen mode. Perfect. I'll do a couple of progress photos. So fourth floor, we had our door frames arrive. So the past week we've been installing those. Third floor is scheduled to be delivered tomorrow. So kind of on a week-to-week basis, we'll be moving down second, first floor, and then finishing up in the lower level. So door frames are showing up, which is good to see those coming up, especially with drywall finishes slated for next month. This is a secondary photo. This is behind the new restrooms that are on the north end of the building. So these are our new shaft walls. Those have recently been inspected by City of Urbana. So those are continuing down from fourth floor as well.
Have them too large.
Oh, yeah, maybe. This is one of our change orders that we had approved a few months ago for the exterior shaft walls to get insulated and fireproof. So this is part one of that. The floor is getting installed with the shaft liner, then fireproofed, and then I got a secondary photo of the spray foam insulation that has been installed. So that's completed on levels 4 and levels 2, so that has been inspected as well, and all is well on those inspections. Starting today, our masons arrived on site, so they are laying up the block work that is located in the lower level, sheriff's area, evidence rooms, etc. So we anticipate them being on site for about 2.5 weeks, and the masonry scope of work will be complete. Jumping outside, we had our new city sidewalk for our water service utilities. That was recently replaced and upsized, so the city sidewalk has been re-poured and opened back up. And then yesterday we had some roof insulation, which I'm very glad to see arrive on site. So that is slated to start next week, ongoing of another change order that we previously discussed last month. So the roof decking and new roof assemblies will be starting next week.
That may be it.
Yeah, that should be it on the photos. Any questions on site progress or photos before the change orders? Yep.
Hi, I think it was last time we talked about Verizon, or was it AT&T on the roof,
Yep.
Verizon.
and taking care of that? Was there any issues, or how'd that work out?
That went pretty smooth. They got all of their equipment off the roof by their slated time due to your contract extension, so no issues with that. They worked over the evening and no disruption to our workforce, so yeah, that went really smooth.
Beth?
Has the supply chain smoothed out a little bit, or are we seeing some better movement?
There's certain items that seem to still be like lingering, like partitions and operable partitions, casework. Occasionally we'll see painting with the schools, all the schoolwork this summer. So a lot of the paint, we're trying to get ready to go, and as well as ceiling tile. So with all the schools, a lot of paint and ceilings have kind of been squeezed a bit, but with our schedule revisions, we're able to maintain that with getting those orders released early. So we don't see any, I mean, outside of generators and HVAC equipment, we're in good shape.
All right. I don't see any other questions. So, oh, Stephanie?
I don't know if this is the right time for the question.
Could you?
Oh, sorry. I don't know if this is the right time for the question. I mean, I feel like this is something I bring up at every meeting. We have a PLA on this agreement, and one of the PLAs has a target for gender and racial labor hours. And just to be quite frank, this report is deeply disturbing. The only place that I saw any of us hitting any of that target was on a few pages, apprentices that were female for very minimal hours, and then some veteran, in the veterans category, again, in both cases were insulators. Besides that, it doesn't look like we've hit one of the targets or even come close or have anybody in any of those other categories. And so if you read the way the PLA is set up, it's set up that if that continues to be the case, that we could ask our agent, in this case it's the county executive, to basically issue an inquiry into and we didn't say you had to hit the targets, that the contractor has to hit the targets, but they have to be able to demonstrate their good faith effort. And so I think we're to that point, to be blunt. And if the documentation on the good faith effort isn't good, then probably moving on to the more punitive stages of the PLA. I know I haven't been here in a few meetings. I've been traveling or meetings have been canceled. So I don't want this to come out of the blue. Maybe there's hope on the horizon as some of the other contractors come in. But just to be blunt. And then the second part of this is, and this is maybe more for Steve's office or for Dana when he gets back, I'd like to see these numbers aggregated. It's very difficult. I appreciate the reporting, but it's like I have to skim, you know what I mean? It's like, here's 1 week on this page, 1 week on this page. I want a chart that aggregates all those numbers, because I think the compelling nature of how poorly this has been going would become more clear if I didn't have to skim through 180 pages. So for the next board packet, I want one chart that for the duration of the project aggregates those numbers, takes all those charts and puts them into one Excel spreadsheet so that the board can have a better understanding of how we're hitting our veterans numbers, which is maybe the only one I think we're even kind of coming close to, how we're hitting our women's numbers and how we're hitting our numbers on race. And then if after the September meeting, there isn't some sort of better answer for how that's going, then I'm going to ask the executive to start the process of enforcing the PLA.
Yeah.
The last thing, I just want to make this very clear. We were serious about it. And I expect these reports to, if I see this kind of data without any explanation, that's a problem.
Do you want to jump forward to C, or do you want to go to B, and we can go back to that?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. It makes sense to cover it now. Let's go ahead and move forward to that.
I apologize, I forgot it was a separate item on the agenda.
That's okay.
Yes,
so I'm new to the group. I'm Ivaristo Jimmy Lopez. I go by Jim. I'm the CEO of Brown Russo Builders and Brown Russo Construction. Approximately 3 years ago, we started the process of getting Brown Russo Construction certified as a minority entity through the central management system through CMS. We were successful about a year ago. So that's what's qualified for our MBE percentage, so for the BRCI. As it relates to the utilization of employees in the PLA agreement, I'll certainly look a little closer at the PLA to see what the exact requirements are on the minority, female, and veteran-owned or disabled employees. But I will say that we've been working closely with the union since we are a union company. We work with the carpenters, laborers, painters as an organization and look for manpower all the time. We recently had to go to Indiana and Chicago just to find manpower, and that's regardless of race or gender, just looking for employees. So if the unions had employees, we would hire them. We've needed 20 carpenters for the last month and haven't been able to find them. We've needed 10 laborers and haven't been able to find them. So that's what's caused us to reach out to other locals. So it probably would be, a good effort for the union halls to come speak to the labor shortage and all the contractors in Champaign County just not being able to have the manpower that we need.
I do want to commend you because I do really appreciate, I think that one of the things that was really encouraging about this contract is how well you did on the WBE and MBE percentages of the contractors. And so I was really excited about this project. Then I see these numbers and that is helpful. And I do appreciate, I think maybe, I don't know, maybe what might be helpful is more about the response from the union. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty familiar with all of them, so I guess a better understanding of where that breakdown is happening, right? So are you saying that even just to fulfill the jobs, you're having to have people journey in from other locals? What local, so are you going out of state or are you just going to other regions locally?
So a little bit of both. So we have some from Chicago and we have some from Terre Haute coming in to help us.
Okay.
Subcontractor wise, and I'm not sure where all the halls are that they connect with, but we aren't able to supply all of the projects that we have. So we're pretty limited on the jobs we can even take as Brown Russo Construction, and then we're
Great.
subbing it out to all the other contractors around. One thing that I have taken on personally is an effort with, I've reached out to Fred Coleman, if you're familiar with Fred, with an attempt to try to get into the high schools to
Sure.
just to get ahead of this, and not only for minorities, but just students in the trades, reaching out as an option to going to college, to consider going to the trades, but then more specific, especially being of Hispanic descent like me, giving those kids an opportunity. So that's something, just started that with Fred. So that's probably going to be 2 or 3 years in the works before
Right.
we see any real outcome from that. But, I'm hopeful that other contractors would start something like that. We can all participate that way.
Another suggestion that I have for you is the state highway program funds a program out of Parkland College. It's a highway and construction pre-apprenticeship program. It's not all women and people of color, but it is the large majority. It's essentially non-traditional people who don't have like family legacy into the trades, right? And it's a lot of, they get some of their early like OSHA certificates and those kind of certificates. They also get training on how to apply into the various jobs. She does an excellent job getting people placed. So like they practice the interviews and all that, the math, everything that they need to know. That might be another pipeline for you to look into. The person who runs that program, her name is Elise Judy Jones. But yeah, like that would maybe be a good, the vast majority of them seem like they're getting placed in the trades. Now, again, there might be high demand for them on other jobs, right? And I don't want it to seem like I'm coming off as harsh. Like, I know especially highway jobs have really strict percentages that you're supposed to hit, both in terms of apprentice hours and journeyman hours, but also racial and different, categories of identity. And I know a lot of the U of I jobs do. So I know that it's a tough nut to crack. I think one of the things, the goal of this as the county to some extent was to get data so that we understood how we're performing. My sense was that we're performing poorly, and this is indicative, just to be blunt. So again, I commend you on the contractual side of it. That's impressive. The other side of it is maybe less so. And we need to figure out where that is so that we as a county can then intervene and figure out, maybe not on this job, but at some point in our lives, how are we going to improve this? Because these are lucrative jobs that could keep people, right, in the middle class. And one of our goals is, if we're going to be putting investment into our community, that we're putting investment into our community that reaches everybody in the community, right? And so thank you for this, and I appreciate it. And I don't know. I guess it's again for the county executive. I don't know if you feel like this is enough of the good faith effort material, or if there's more questions that we could ask. Yeah.
I think we need to continue to review and get information from contractors at both of our buildings. I just reached out to my business agent about the issues in terms of getting adequate laborers. I hope I'll hear back from him in another maybe half an hour, or maybe tomorrow morning. But I knew that there was a fair amount of work. I was not sure how tight the local labor market is, but I'm asking questions to find out.
Yeah, and we'll see, I would say in a couple weeks, at least no later than September 1st, we'll see a huge pipeline of workers come in now that the school projects are done, student housing, all the summer work. So we'll all be in a spot where we have a lot more availability. We won't be reaching out to Terre Haute and Chicago at that time. So hopefully that pipeline allows for some more opportunities and options for us.
I mean, to be perfectly blunt, I want there to be a diverse labor force that is on this job, but I want it to be a local labor force. I don't want it to be, right? I mean, and I understand like how that's just the way the world is in this, when, especially in the summer. It's when construction is hot, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it really benefits us as a county if we have an incredibly, if we have all these veterans. I mean, that's great for the other counties that they're in, but we really want to prioritize. And I will say the one thing that you showed as compliance is the East Illinois Building Trades, this pre-apprenticeship program that they propose, we have funded that. So, but that's not going to help on your job, right? Yeah. That might help if, we have to consolidate another building in the future, but that's not really going to help on your job.
Jeff?
Thank you for that discussion. I think what I'm hearing you're saying, it's really a function of the makeup of the labor pool that exists within the county. And so is it more the responsibility then of the local trade units supplying the appropriate resources, rather than you're doing the good faith effort to do what he can in order to have the right people. However, if there's not the right pool to draw from that's local, then it's more not the project's ultimate issue. There's other underlying concerns.
This is a deep question, and this is actually something I study for a living. This is what I do. I would argue it's both. And the role that the contractors have to play, if the contractors unequivocally said to the building trades, this is our value and this is the labor force we want, they'd have it, period. So that is the right.
Are you saying they don't have that value? Is that what you just said?
What I'm saying is that historically and that throughout time in this, yes.
Particular project.
Right. Well, I would agree that the labor force right now is reflective of this report. Right? But the only way that that's going to turn around, in my opinion, is if contractors start saying to the trade unions that this labor force is no longer acceptable. You're going to need to change how you do your operations. And vice versa, that the trades say to the contractors, this is the labor force that we have, because there's a lot of really good faith contractors, and I'll be blunt, sometimes I do not at all think this is your case. Sometimes the contractors are the problem, right? It goes both ways. It depends on a particular, and we're not going to solve U.S. history in the next 20 minutes, right? There's historical reasons for this. This is, if you look at a job sector that is the most white and the most male in the United States, it's this job sector. We've never gone in this country above 3% women. It's one of the lowest percentages of women participation in any workforce. Race is a little bit different, and it depends on which union you're talking about. Some are better than others, right? But I think that there does have to be, what is the issue, right? Is it that we've, defunded trades schools in our high schools? Is it the historic racism and sexism of the building trade unions themselves? Is it the expectations of contractors? It's all of that, and all of that has to be, right? And is it public entities not saying that this is our values and we want to hold them responsible, right? We should have had this policy in place 20 years ago, 30 years ago as a county. We'd be in a different position now, right? But we didn't. So I think all of us have to kind of come to the table together to solve this. And I think things like them getting certified as a minority contractor is a step in the right direction, because that's publicly saying, hey, this is a value that we have, right? It's a signal to the trades. I think it's an important signal to the trades. But we need more contractors like you, right? I'll just be blunt, there's a lot of contractors who just check this off as like not something that they have to take seriously. And the only way to make them take it seriously is for us to continue to have a conversation about it in public. And I will say, to the building trades benefit, the leadership of most of the trades right now recognizes this as something that they need to work on. But change doesn't come overnight.
Any other comments, questions? No, I agree. I think it's part of the reason why, we had the East Illinois Building Trades come to us with their proposal that we were able to fund as part of the Community Violence Prevention ARPA funding. So hopefully we'll start to see these numbers budge as people are more available, as you say, after the summer jobs that have taken them away, and you have more local people to choose from. Any other comments there, or no? Okay, we can jump back to item B, the discussion and approval of change orders for ITB 2022-008 County Plaza renovation project.
In your packet, thank you. You should have in your packet change orders 14, 15, and 16. And 13. Oh, I thought we had approved 13. Anyway, okay, and 13. So 13 was the conduit change orders. Are they here? 13. Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
13
so
says
the,
conduit,
The
yeah.
conduit, yeah, for the rough-in for the exterior lights. There was the idea that we wanted to change the light fixtures on the exterior of the building, possibly to an LED light so that the color could change. And as we were insulating the conduit to those existing light fixtures, it was in poor shape, and if we were going to replace those fixtures, we wanted new conduit to run to those locations. I think it was about $3,000. Then the next one was we found some more asbestos panels behind the glazing system. I think we had commented on that in June. We got the price for that. That is also in your packet. 15 was the floor plan modifications that was requested by the county. So there were some additions and some credits in there. There was also, I think, a little bit of rework around one of the stairs too that was included in there for the sheetrock per the request of the City of Urbana. And then 16 is the credit for going with just one type of ceiling tile. Make Chris and Dana's job a little easier. And that was a credit of $16,000, so that seemed well worth it as well. Upcoming next month, we will have a fencing change order. It looks like it will be a credit of about $17,000. We're going to rework some of the fencing. We'll see that plan here in the next few weeks. And I don't anticipate any other ones right now. Is that?
That's accurate.
Okay, good. Any questions?
Okay, so,
Just real quick,
Oh, Stephanie.
what's the percent, do you know what is the percentage that we're at, like, changeovers over cost of job, like what, where are we? What is it, 5%?
No, we're under $1 million. I think
Right.
Yeah, we're under $1 million. So at $18.8 million, we're at what?
930, it looks like?
Yeah,
So
930.
what
yeah.
was the contingency we had on the job? Do we remember?
It was, if we were at $18 million for the bid, we had $2 million contingency. So we
Okay,
were total
okay.
at 20 million, like all in.
Okay,
So we're still under that.
all right. And you feel pretty confident we'll get in under that?
Right now, yes, yeah.
Steve?
Talking with Tammy, she feels that she does have some additional flexibility in the budget, even if we should go over that. I don't anticipate that we will, but she was confident that we would have the ability to cover overruns that went over that amount as well.
And we spun the elevators off, right? So that's not
Elevators-
considered
Well,
a liability against this project. I mean, it is this project, but it's not a liability against this.
that's not my understanding, but I have
Okay.
to double check with Dana. Chris,
Okay.
do you know? I mean, do you have any idea?
I think that's a separate deal altogether.
Yeah.
Okay,
That wasn't included in this.
okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought, because if you had the elevators in, we're done. So, okay. That was my big question. I just wanted to make sure that we were, cool.
okay, no other questions, comments? Okay, so, I guess all in favor of, or do we have to so move? I'm sorry, we move to accept the change orders as presented. Moved by Locke, seconded by Hanauer Freeman. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Moving forward, we have an update on the jail consolidation from Reef Tech Reed. Oh, hit it one more time. There you
All right, I'm Matt Brown with PJ Hare. I'm going to give us a quick overview of the progress, what we've done and where we're going. So you can see from the photo here, we've got vapor barrier down in preparation for a concrete pour that we wanted to pour on Monday. So as soon as the weather straightens out a little bit, we'll get going on placing the slab on grade throughout the facility. So we've got 5 pours scheduled in the sequence here, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up in the next couple of weeks. Here's just another picture of the current state of the facility. This was prior to the rain, so right now we've got a little water on it. You can see here all of the, the plumbing piped up and the electrical. Those service all the cells within the facility. You can see a lot of the walls where we do structural CMU throughout the inside of the building. Here's just a quick picture of our folks installing the exterior masonry, and just a kind of pretty picture of a wall. Here's the outdoor rec yard, the current outdoor rec yard. We've took that area over from the county, and we're converting it into an indoor space. So here you can see we're demoing some of the concrete for a new foundation package where we'll build new walls, and, we'll get a whole new structure built within these walls. Here's our geofield. So here we've got all the wells drilled for the geo on the project. And then here's kind of a nice overview showing, this is a couple weeks old, but it shows you in pretty good detail. You can see kind of all the exterior around both sides of the exterior walls, kind of inside these exterior walls. These are all cells in the kind of the center area, or are kind of like the command center for all the employees managing the areas. And there's a big corridor here that's going to connect, if you follow my mouse, the existing jail to the new jail. You can see the exterior CMU's done, with the exception of one wall here that we're leaving out for access into this existing outdoor rec area that we're converting into an indoor rec, and then kind of in between the buildings we'll have additional outdoor space. So we've got a lot of masonry done, but it's only about a quarter of the masonry. We got a ton of it to do inside, so we've got about 3 months worth of masonry after we get the slabs poured. But in between that, we've got the steel delivered to the site this week. So we've got a couple sections of structural masonry that we'll be getting on, and we'll get the steel erected here in the next probably month, and then continue on with interior masonry. That's our progress, kind of what we've done so far.
All right, any questions for PJ Core? Beth?
How are you looking about, it sounds funny to be racing the weather, 80, 90-degree weather, but I know the rain probably put you back a little bit. Is that a concern yet, or is it still looking all right?
We're getting ready to get into the rainy season. We've been very fortunate so far to have really good weather and make the progress we've made. We have a pretty good schedule to get the building weather tight prior to winter, which is key to unlocking a lot of progress through the cold months. So we're very confident that we're going to be in a good place. Once we get the steel up here in the next month, we'll be able to put a roof on. So we're a couple months away from, getting it roofed in and semi-weather tight. So all is going well so far. There you go.
Stephanie?
What are the little hills? Like driving in today, there's like all those like weird little, like
Yeah.
it looks like a mountain range. What is it? I'm super curious.
Yeah, that's our geofield. So that's all the wells that are drilled for that system. So that'll connect into the building.
You don't get to keep the mountains, though.
Very cool, all right. Any other questions, comments? Okay, so you can move on and we can get an update on the change orders for ITB 2022-009 Satellite Jail Consolidation Project.
Yeah, Chris, are you able to, our numbers aren't really matching up with what's on the agenda. Which specific change orders are we talking about?
I've got the credit for removing the face frames for plastic laminate casework,
Okay.
Okay,
QCP certification requirement for casework credit.
okay,
And the other one was additional masonry grout per revisited details and setting of new embedded bearing plates.
okay. Yeah, so
Those two.
we just, as far as the first credit, as it relates to millwork, as we're going through the shop drawing process, we saw opportunity to provide a credit to the county and not lose value. So we kind of found what we felt was a better way to do the face of the cabinets that met the standards, national millwork standards, that were able to save some money. And to the whole group, that was a no-brainer. So we offered a credit, and the county has took it. The other one was we had to modify some details on the CMU. It was a small change, and added new connection details for the steel. And probably the next question coming up, where are we at on the project overall on change orders? Right now, we have credit. Right now, as it stands, we have a credit of $210,000, so a surplus. We still have a change order, which was approved in the first meeting associated with this project, which was a T&M not to exceed change order of $183,000. So next month, we'll be talking about that add. So that puts us still at a credit, I don't know where we're at there, maybe like $30,000 or $40,000. And then additionally, the credit we have coming. So we're at a decent surplus for the project. And we've just worked with the architect and designer in the county to try to find good places to save. So we're happy about that.
That is happy news. Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. So then we do also have an update on minority and female workers
Yep.
for this project.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak on that. Our team noticed right off the bat, well, first off, we're proud that we met the contracting entity goal portion of the PLA and met that. We worked with the county to do so, but as soon as we started getting our MMUR reports, we noticed we are at a deficiency in regards to the workforce participation goals. So at that moment, we tried to proactively provide our good faith efforts. And similar to what we've heard, we agree that I think here locally, the pool of personnel as a union company is something we're all working to improve. Our company and me personally, we've reached out to Kevin Sage and the East Central Illinois Building Construction Trade Council to help partner with them to, like you kind of said, improve as we move forward in the future. We do a lot of things that were addressed in our package on the good faith effort, such as the recruiting in the high schools, partnering with all the different unions, not just in this region, but other regions, to try to gain the valuable resources that we need to build these projects and to meet the goals similar to this on other projects. So I feel like we've written letters to the union in regards to our concern and our request for the participation that meets the goals of all of us in this group, specifically stated in the PLA. And as Kevin was a signing partner on that agreement, we're gonna the apprenticeship program that the county has sponsored along with the building trades. We've proactively volunteered to be like an exclusive partner with the union to try to help them recruit, to go to the different events, and which we've done in the past here at the county, and we've showed that. So we put together, I won't talk about everything we've put together in the good faith effort package, but we aren't meeting the goal, and we're trying.
Stephanie?
So first of all, I want to apologize to Russo. You do have a chart. You do have an aggregate chart, and I just missed it. So you should have called me out on that. Like, I read the packet twice. I saw your chart, and I was like, that's an awesome chart, but I somehow missed your chart. So, yeah, and actually your women participation is not bad. It's 12%, which it's really, like, I looked through, that surprised me, because when you just look through the individual ones, I saw women a few times. I saw veterans a lot, but it also could just be like sometimes it's hard to follow the line. So your women participation is spot on. Your minority participation is 1%, so that's maybe not too great. Your women participation, so part of it could also be we got y'all competing against each other.
Yeah,
so your women, you don't have any women, but your minority participation isn't bad, and it's actually higher than you're giving yourselves credit for. Because if you actually do the actual, it's like 7.6 something percent.
Okay.
So it's closer to 8% than
good.
7. So
Okay.
it's not terrible.
No.
I mean, honestly, your minority participation, obviously I'd like it to be 10%. Heck, I'd like it to be 20%. Your minority participation isn't bad.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so and your women participation isn't bad. And I'll be honest, just to be, I'll say this publicly, I think I said it when we passed the PLA, 15% women participation is a bonkers goal. Like, I'm not thrilled with 0, but the fact that y'all got to 12% is astounding. I mean, that to me is a much harder goal to hit than the minority percentage, it just is, and especially in this county. But So I apologize. You do have it aggregated. And that was actually not so much directed at you as more our internal staff. Like, I don't know that it's your job to aggregate those numbers for me, but it was in there. I just missed it. So my apologies. But yeah, so I appreciate it. I know y'all are putting in the effort. I'm going to bring it up at every meeting. Just full disclosure, I'm bringing it up at every meeting.
Yeah. I mean, we recognize our deficiencies, and we're trying very hard to improve them. So, we feel with talking with the unions as we progress into, right now, we've got a lot of electrical hours, a lot of foundation, kind of earthwork hours. We feel that as we progress through more some of the other trades and some of the other finishing work, I think that similar to what we heard earlier, we're hoping that improves, and we continually request improvement from the resource we have at the union for the pool. So.
I also will be blunt to Russo, just based on the trades that you've already had on the job, it's not shocking to me where the minority numbers are. My guess is when maybe in different parts of the project, the numbers might be a lot better, because it's wildly uneven in the trades, right, where diversity is, and just some of the numbers, some of the trades that have been reporting. So to some degree, it's not keeping me up as much. If we get to December and it's still like this, we might have to have a different conversation. But yeah, and then I also think, this is maybe more for Steve, this is not really something we required so much in the PLA, but they are reporting veteran status, and it might not be a bad idea just maybe every 6 months or something to report over to the VAC. You know what I mean? Like, we have a lot of effort in this county to support our veterans. I think one of the things, the ability to show that we're having veterans on these jobs, right? I also should say, I feel like I've said a lot about the building trades. Let me be real. If these were non-union jobs, the numbers wouldn't be any better. The percentages are actually better on the union side than in the non-union side in terms of racial and gender minority. Like, it's not like if this job had been built non-union that we would have had very different numbers. That's just not the case, right? So it's the industry across the board. And I know that I appreciate that you all are working to be change agents in that industry a great deal.
Yep. Thank you.
Ellie?
Just to add on to your original request for more clearly presented data, I guess I would just second that, like, I'm not sure where the veteran numbers are in here. So, and again, this is for our people. If there was a way to just get a consolidated report with all of the numbers for these various categories, that would be really wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a category in the PLA, so I'll apologize in advance that I don't believe that's something we are tracking on this specific project.
Yeah, that's not in your PLA, so.
But the numbers would be off if we tracked it moving forward, because we've done a lot of work with veterans on the job. So that's why we don't have that in it. Okay.
I think that was one of the questions when we were discussing the PLA to begin with was, should that be something that we're tracking as a county? And if so, moving forward, do we start adding that in, building it in for next versions, I guess? All right. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we are moving on to the aforementioned elevator. Is this something that? Those were listed as just an update for me for the change orders. I don't see anything about voting on them, so.
Is there like a reason? Like, is there like a threshold we have to vote on, or?
It
I
was all
believe there
credit.
is.
It was a credit.
One was a credit, yeah, and then I think the other one is below the threshold. Dana has mentioned it. I don't recall what yeah, okay. Thank you for checking on it though, Chris. Okay, so then we move on to the big elevator project. Discussion and approval of contract award for ITB 2023-005 County Plaza Elevator Renovation with Bailey Edward.
So we bid the elevator project here last Friday, or a week ago Friday. Anyway, we had asked 5 different elevator contractors to bid the work. We had 4 certainly interested. 2 came to the pre-bid. 1 came to the site the Thursday after the pre-bid. We postponed the bid about 3 days so that the contractor that had come to the site after the pre-bid could put together their numbers. Unfortunately, it was they were going to, all 3 of them were going to give a price. The other 2 had cited labor issues. It's just a reoccurring theme. I can only tell you all across this county, Sangamon, downstate Illinois, it's labor. As of the morning of the bid, 3 of the bidders were still going to submit bids, and we found out about 10 o'clock that one of the bidders pulled out because they had received a large project and did not have the labor force to do this project as well. So what you see in your bid packet is the bids from Otis and Murphy. Kone was the one who ended up pulling out that morning. Schindler did not come look at the project. They felt like it was too far outside their service region, and they didn't feel like they'd be able to give a good representation as far as service goes to the county, so they didn't want to extend themselves. Otis came in at $928, I think it is. We had budgeted about $300,000 per elevator, so we were at $900, and I believe that Dana had about $1 million set aside for the project. There was an option to accelerate the work for $90,000. That was alternate bid number 3. After talking to Otis, they advised us to not take that alternate because, one, it was only going to improve the delivery date by about 6 weeks, I think it was 6 or 8 weeks. And the other problem, again, going back to labor, they were not going to be able to find enough people to run a second shift. So they basically advised against it. So,
Just out of curiosity, were we going to pay like a labor premium for that second shift? Like, would there have been a shift differential?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's what the $90,000 would have been for a second shift. Yeah, labor rate. So in our letter, we just recommended to go ahead and award base bid, and then ask Otis if they would hold that alternate price to accelerate until, like March maybe, which may not happen with labor rates, maybe wishful thinking, to see if there is enough labor then in the market to do a second shift, or how we're looking as far as schedule goes, but I have not talked to them about that.
I guess I'm raising my own hand. I guess my question is with the second shift thing, where does that line up with like completion of the project and actual need for access to the elevators? Like, is that going to make a difference there?
If it were going to run second shift, they said installation of elevators usually runs about 14 weeks per elevator. The second shift would expedite that down to about 9 weeks. And at that point, I think we would be in January. I think they said that if we expedited, we'd be at 58 weeks to the completion. So if you think 58 weeks, 52 weeks from now, it's going to put us into September for completion. Our idea now is that we could at least get one elevator up and running If it's 14 weeks, that would more coincide with the March completion date that Braun Russo has given us, and then the other 2 would just follow behind.
I guess my question is, are we going to run into any ADA compliance issues with not having a functional elevator, or like as far as time, does that affect any kind of compliance?
Well, all the elevators in the building will be compliant.
I just mean, like, do we have any regulation as far as number of functional elevators, I guess?
No, as long
No,
as you
there's
have
not.
one.
As
Yeah,
long as
just
there's one. Okay.
Well, I guess you do, one.
I will say, and this one I actually do think is somewhat on the union, my understanding of the tightest labor market in terms of building trades in the state and possibly the country, but for sure in the state, is elevators. And it's harder to get into the elevating operating union than it is to get into Harvard. Like the percentage of people they accept is below, like it's really hard to get in that union. And they control that labor pool, and it's a very small pool in this state. So good luck. You know what I mean? And there's like, again, there's like 3 companies that do it,
Yeah.
right? So it is, and if there's more lucrative, bigger jobs out there, we're always going to be. So as much as I'd like to get them all in, it's a very skilled job. It's a very, I think out of all the building trades, it's the tightest labor market. So yeah, I forget, there was one building that I worked in at the U of I, and the wait list for us to get the elevator fixed, they were like, we hope in the next this was several years ago, in the next 5 years, we get labor to come do this elevator. So the fact that you were even hoping to get one done when the building opens is actually, I think, pretty darn good, because it is a tight labor market. I always tell people, if you're looking for a career to make some money, go work in the elevator business, because you will always have a job.
Yes.
If you could get in, you'll have work for the rest of your life.
Any
Other questions? No? Oh, Chris?
I do want to say that Otis takes care of all of our other elevators in the county right now, so this kind of works out pretty good. We're not having to contact a different elevator company to come and work on one of our buildings. If we keep it all the same, it makes things a lot simpler, so.
So from my son's early obsession with elevator days, Otis is a strong, reputable company. I have no problem accepting work from them. So the only thing that gave me pause was that Coney was the only one who was on site. You don't think that'll affect knowledge of the project or like potential change in cost or anything?
No. Murphy was the one who came by on the Thursday following the pre-bid. So they did walk the site, just not with the architect.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, can we move forward to approve that contract? If we could get Locke has a motion, Wilson seconds. All in favor of accepting the recommendation for Otis as our elevator contractor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, any opposed? All right, that one passes. Thank you, Carla. Moving on to other business. I have no other business. Our next meeting will be September 5th at 6:30 p.m. Items to be placed on the consent agenda are, let's see. I should have put little arrows next to them for me. We have items 6B and 6G. That's correct. Yes, we got it. All right, then seeing no other business, I think this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.